What things from the COVID-19 era or lockdown era have just faded into obscurity or are a joke now? Touching elbows instead of shaking hands. I learned about elbow bumping when the regional manager of the company I worked for at the time came to our location a few months after we reopened. He introduced himself to me and stuck his elbow out. Clueless, my brow furrowed in confusion, I reached out and shook his elbow while staring him dead in the eye. It was an awkward moment. Gosh, I've never gotten an award before. Tiger King. Congress passed the Big Cat Public Safety Act, partially as a result of increased public knowledge of the issue. These entities can no longer allow public contact with their big cats, and private owners can no longer keep them as pets. How empty the streets, highways were for like a good year. I remember once the hype was over, my drive to work took longer. Yeah, I had to go to work the whole time and my commute went from an hour and a half to less than 30. I drove a box truck for a living at that time. Getting on the interstate used to be a massive bitch before COVID. When people stopped driving, my days got so much easier. No one on the interstate, no one crowding downtown. It was wonderful. I don't see as many social media posts about sourdough bread. My wife still makes a loaf a week from a starter that started in quarantine. We call her Tina, short for Quarantina. I don't see as many social media posts about sourdough bread. One-way aisles in the supermarket. I love that some places haven't bothered to peel those off or the stickers reminding you to maintain 6 feet distance. The view of the Himalayas from Indian villages, the smog briefly cleared, but now it is back. If I remember correctly too, they said the environment immediately started healing at a pace scientists said they never thought possible. It felt like a mini green revolution. Emissions from commuting fell immensely, because way fewer people were driving to work. We got a bunch of attaboy emails saying how we're doing great working from home and simultaneously improving our green stance. 2 years later, any mention of green has been scrubbed because of return to office. We're all in this together. I love that some places haven't bothered to peel those off or the stickers reminding you to maintain 6 feet distance. In Ontario, Canada, we had to choose people to be in our bubble. Then we learned that your best friend's bubble of friends didn't include you. It was a weird time. It's like the MySpace top friend spots. It's devastating how quickly everyone forgot how peaceful, clean and calm the world becomes in that short period of full lockdown. And how, without hesitation, we went full force into undoing all of it, and putting on the afterburners to make sure the experience was burnt to a crisp. The free government COVID test kits are all expired. For a couple months the customer wasn't always right. It felt really good seeing bosses standing for their employees. With dolphins in the Canal of Venice, that's what impressed me, nature immediately taking back the space people left. Similarly, Southern California was clean too. You could see the Sierra Nevada mountains from down in the valley. I still see "you must respect our employees" signs in certain stores. Like, people are fucking animals. I joked one day with the dude at Lowe's about that sign at his desk in the appliance area. He told me a few stories of his favorite times he had customers kicked out of the store. How are you going to disrespect the dude selling you a dishwasher on sale? The amount of people that got angry at the 15 to 17-year-old girls that worked as hostesses in my restaurant for asking them to wear a mask or telling them they can't sit at a certain table because it's within 6 feet of another was ridiculous. You're a grown-ass man screaming and cussing at a high school-aged girl because you can't sit at a certain table. Grow the fuck up. For anyone who doesn't know, the businessman who famously created this saying was not a moron. He did not mean that the customer is always right. It's a misquote. The guy said that in matters of taste, the customer is always right, meaning that customers know what they want to buy, and if you don't have that item in your store, you are a fool. This reminds me of that hot dog guy at some baseball stadium that refused to sell you a hot dog if you asked for ketchup. He insisted that only mustard should go with hot dogs for some reason. He was famous for his yelling of hot dogs, or whatever. But he was eventually fired because, surprisingly, management hired him to sell hot dogs, not refuse to let other people eat them the way they want. 24-hour shopping. I used to be able to go to the grocery store late at night. I don't understand how this one hasn't came back, IDK. I work third shift and despise staying up to deal with daywalkers. From talking with a family friend who works at a grocery store, they were mainly open before because they were stocking anyway, so why not? The idea was that they don't increase their labor costs by much, because most folks would be there stocking anyway. They found during COVID that they stock much faster when they don't have to worry about making room for customers. So they need less stockers since they can get more done per stocker. Also, apparently a large portion of their stealing was overnight, since it was easier for people to get away with it. Of the people not stealing, a lot were folks that didn't seem to have anywhere to go who would wander for hours without buying anything. Of the few customers overnight who were actually customers, they still have to grocery shop sometime, so they don't lose that much revenue by making it less convenient for them. Hoarding toilet paper. This was a wild one. We eventually bought a bidet to make things less of an issue. But I'll never forget that any time we were at a store, it was like, oh shit, there's a roll of no-name toilet paper. We'd better grab it. Who knows if we'll see another one for weeks. On a whim, I decided to splash out and I bought a giant 32-pack of the fanciest toilet paper in the shop. No less than 48 hours later, the lockdowns were announced. I spent the pandemic wiping in luxury as the world burned. The fact that essential workers include liquor store employees is pretty funny to me. Healthcare couldn't handle all the people that would have gone into detox, sad. COVID commercials. It's weird to begin with, but those went away quicker than most things. In these uncertain times, it's more important than ever to drink Coke. Wiping down all your groceries with Lysol towels. I went grocery shopping for my 90-year-old grandfather in those first couple of weeks and even had to buy him a new TV because his crapped out during that time. I remember wiping down both the groceries and the TV's box in his garage because we were all being told that COVID lives on surfaces. Wild times. I will always remember COVID, not like I needed help remembering when I look at a spot on our kitchen table where the finish is melted away. One of the few times I left the house was to vote. Mail-in ballot never got to me. I had to pull my phone out while I was there, for some reason. So when I got home I decided to spray it down with the rubbing alcohol bottle my husband used for the groceries. I made the mistake of placing said phone on the table before wiping it off. It took off the finish in that spot. Apple removed their exposure notifications feature in iOS 18 to be released this fall. Interesting. Pretty much every US state shut down their notification system some time ago, and I imagine the other countries that implemented one have long shut their databases down as well, but I can't imagine the harm in retaining the feature set for future use. Remote work. Most major tech companies have instituted return-to-office policies in varying degrees. Even now bosses downplaying staying home when you feel sickly. It is insane how quickly it turned around. This is a total fucking joke. I am in banking finance, and just 2 years ago our CEO told the entire company it's obvious that remote work and hybrid scheduling is our way into the future, and we now have flexibility to hire anywhere in the country. Then last year the RTO started because of the collaboration. Sorry dude, but every other fucking company in the country is saying that too. You're messing with people's lives now. Respect for healthcare workers. We were heroes. They're used for only emergencies. Now we're back to getting yelled at for making someone wait for 3 hours to be seen for their rash that they've had for 2 years. Teaching and nursing are the only two jobs I've heard of where you can be frequently assaulted with impunity for the attacker. The fact hospitals will gouge patients into permanent debt edited. Damn autocorrect without batting an eye, but draw the line at pressing charges for attempting to hurt or even kill nurses is so fucking weird. Those brass door toucher things. Distilleries making hand sanitizer and putting it in liquor bottles. Tiger King. I miss how sociable people were. It sounds weird because we were all isolating at home, but the times where you had to pop out and were with others, I found that people were a lot more willing to chat about things, no doubt because we were all stuck at home with nobody but immediate family to talk to. I remember doing an online grocery order that I had to collect from the shop because all the delivery slots were taken, and as I was standing next to my car there was another gent standing 2 parking spaces away doing the same thing. I can't remember what we talked about specifically, but it was the then usual stuff about how life has changed, what are you doing to keep busy, etc. Then when we were both going out separate ways, we both, completely genuinely, said to each other, stay safe. I know people will think that's cringe, but at the time it was nice to hear from someone, and said in genuine sincerity, I don't miss lockdown, but I do miss that. Zoom meetings with friends, family. God damn, that sucked. The COVID tracker websites. I used to obsess over the numbers and check them multiple times a day. As things opened up, I stopped doing that as much. I checked Worldometers the other day out of curiosity, and it said it's no longer updating because so few countries are even tracking anymore. My old high school was built in the 1950s, and I remember an old faded sign that said Fallout Shelter with the nuclear symbol. I was in Best Buy yesterday and there was an old faded vinyl sticker on the floor that said please stand 6 feet apart. Banging pots and pans every evening in NYC. I mean, I still do it, but that's because it wakes up Mama for her stories. Personal space. Holy people, I didn't want you to be breathing down my neck before COVID. I certainly don't want it now. A lot of things that existed long before COVID are ridiculed as COVID things now. I have always carried hand sanitizer, but now people are like, COVID is over, right? Social distancing, and goddamn I miss it. I fucking hate feeling some smelly meat bag hovering a few centimeters behind me, acting all impatient because I won't take another step forward and hump the person in front of me. During peak COVID, we saw some of the strongest efforts towards workers' rights unions, work-life balance, livable wages, etc. that we've seen in recent memory. As soon as the world started up again, all those dreams faded into the background again.